This is the commentary for my world record in Spyro the Dragon any %. In this video, I want to explain every trick, mechanic, and strategy used to push this speedrun to a place that most of us thought would never happen. We'll speed up and slow down the run as I explain to keep things simple, so whether you're new to this game or just an old senile dragon yelling into the clouds, we got something interesting here. So let's get into it. Before the run starts, you're beautiful, but let's review our goal here. This is any %, so all we're trying to do is kill Nasty Norc as quickly as possible. Now, he is ugly, and part of the way that he lashes out this insecurity is by forcing us to use the balloonists. The balloonists will check your requirements at each homeworld. By the end of the game, we need 5 eggs, 50 dragons, and 6,000 gems. By the way, that's like a shit ton of stuff, and I'm shirtless, so with that out of the way, let's get into Stonehill. We start by annihilating this ram before doing a tricky charge into this well, making sure to land against the wall so that the whirlwind spawns after the dragon. I jump into the whirlwind in order to preserve upward momentum, saving a few frames on every whirlwind. After cleaning up the collateral ram that just watched its brother die, we satisfyingly charge through both rows of boxes before rolling around the front of the dragon. We do this in order to touch every dragon as close as possible to Spyro's endpoint after walking. This way, each dragon feels individually loved and cared about, rewarding us with up to a second of time save per dragon. Here we do our first sequence break of the run by jumping and charging up this cliff, making a beeline to the final dragon of the level while causing as much violence and destruction as possible along the way. After some unnecessary flames, we reject Gildas's professional opinion to actually glide where we just were, and that's Stonehill. At this point, you may be wondering, why do we choose to collect some gems but skip over others? Like, couldn't you just complete the levels in any order and grab all the gems whenever you feel like it? Well, yeah, but thanks to the fucking balloonists, I would basically be forced to backtrack if I didn't collect as much this early on. Regardless, there's still different routes you could take, but a route is only considered optimal if it averages 3.5 gems per second while minimizing the time in between dragons. Alright, enough of that nerdy shit. Let's do some Spanish bullfighting in Town Square. Speaking of which, did you know that those bulls are the only enemy in the game that have a secondary death animation? Huh. Once again, I jump and charge around this cliff to sequence break the level, but how did I make that yellow gem home in? Normally gems are supposed to pop in the air when you flame an enemy, but you can make them home in by charging immediately after your flame. I want to make it clear that this technique is very difficult to master. It allows you to potentially make more gems home in from much further away than normal, and really, it's only as effective as risky you're willing to play it. But with that, we finish up the last of these enemies that literally didn't know what hit them because I did the level fucking backwards, and that is Town Square. Now here, I'm going to glide cancel a triangle drop, setting me up perfectly for this wall glide on the mountains, where I carefully maneuver to break on through to the other side. Don't worry, I won't do that again. But with that, we're done with Artisans. Only 5 more. Hey, wait, why didn't we collect that dragon at the start? Yeah, Nestor? Well, his dialogue is unskippable. Unless you do a pixel imperfect flop against the top of his collision in order to get stuck but still fall off onto his pedestal at exactly the 4-second mark in order to void out while still collecting him at the same time, obviously. Well, call me a pussy if you want, but even though it saves 5 seconds, I chose not to do it in this run, which I think really highlights the level of movement I had in order to still get world record regardless. Right, guys? Right? Anyways, on to Peacekeepers, where we're just going to skip forward to Dry Canyon because we don't got all fucking day here. At the start of this level, I flame a fan chest which actually flies up and kills the enemy up above me off screen. Since we prolonged his death animation, we'll be able to admire our handiwork later like a true James Bond villain. As we finish up these enemies, we're beginning to collect more valuable gems. Now, I'm not going to patronize you by naming every gem color and value, but you can use your eyeballs to see the value of each one as I collect it. Now, if you happen to be blind, just know that things are getting saucy as we collect our first pink gem from that guy that we killed at the start of the level. Oh my god, hi. And now here comes the toughest glide of the entire run. After these boxes, I'll jump for an uncomfortably long hang time, charge, glide, and then charge again to barely reach the ledge. The casual way to get here is to do a blind jump around the other side of this mountain, which really isn't that intuitive either, so if you made it over here as a kid, you're pretty legit for that. After killing these 3 BBLs, we enter Cliff Town, where we're gonna find our first BBW. We jump around to the secret area at the start early to collect more gems, but then it's time for Mama Proxy. I approach her with respect and class before rizzing her into the corner, where I get all up in there and get squeezed upwards by her loving embrace. Then this roof would normally roll you off, but by holding X we can buffer jumps on it to sequence break the level. This basically lets us skip a long glide to get over here, where you fly over a river of dank lean. We do a swaggy 360 before returning to the main part of the level. Here we'll access some of the roofs early in order to access gems and the firework. Nice flame charge. Nice flame. Damn, this guy's good. Pablo will now climb the Pueblo. After a tight charge jump up the stair, we hit both the Mama and the Cauldron at the same time, twice while gliding and grabbing the gems out of the air. Then we massacre these enemies while collecting as many gems as possible, maintaining their high value into the end of the level. I do a blind jump to grab this blue gem, which can randomly land out of your reach before hitting a few more classy flame charges into the vortex to finish Cliff Town. I tactically incinerate the cannon guy as well as one of the red guys, leaving the other one for after night flight. Dr. Shemp is going to start with a juicy fade back jump, double charge. I mean, I'm hitting these fadeaways like Steph Curry on the Lakers, motherfucker. But also I'm making sure to charge every one of these little metal guys so that way their gems aren't lost when they inevitably die off the side of the edge, which their mothers caused, showing a lot about their moral compass. We go around the back of this tower in order to grab a few more high-value gems before seeing one of the most gorgeous skyboxes in all of video games. Unfortunately, we will not be fighting Dr. Shemp here. He will just have to live with the repercussions of my actions, having his world shattered around him. Here comes another tight jump where we can barely charge around the edge of this cliff to avoid bonking. Next, we approach the thief on the right to avoid him running away so that we can do a flame charge jump which skips the egg collection animation. Gunner here gives us a warning about the thief behind us, but we're like already way ahead of him, bro. We're now en route to our first flight level of the run, of which there is one per homeworld. You'll notice that I'm being very thorough in my gem collection as we're still well under the required amount to exit Peacekeepers. Okay, so here's how flight levels work. There are 4 groups of 8 collectibles that if you collect all 32, you get 300 gems at the end. Pretty simple. But Dayo, there's no dragons in these levels. Couldn't you just skip them? Actually, yes, but as I mentioned earlier, I'm hurting for gems right now, and flight levels present roughly 4 gems per second, making them more worth it than detours elsewhere in the game. There may be a future where one of these flights is routed out, but I wouldn't count on it. And besides, the music in this level is a fucking bop. Anyways, let's skip forward so I can show off this crazy turn that collects the archways while flaming the lighthouses. Sick. We finish the level by crashing into the lighthouse while we flame it. This way, it skips a 4-second animation where Spyro is like all proud of himself and shit. Pause. See how I collect 300 gems? Now look how many gems come out of the box. It's only 132, and now you'll never be able to unsee that. The game still gives you 300 gems anyways, I just figure I'd ruin the childhood for any of you watching that have OCD. Anyways, let's move on to Ice Cavern. I don't have a lot to say about the first part of this level except for this fun fact. Ice Cavern is actually the largest level in terms of traversable landmass in the game, with Lofty Castle being in a close second, edging it out if you consider distance from one end to another. Also, that could be completely wrong for all I know. That's just what I heard from other people. I didn't actually measure it myself. We opt for the gems on this shelf while also doing some tight flame charges to optimize our gems per second. Skipping forward a bit, we run into some enemies that are too large to be flame charged. We have to be very careful the way we approach them because if we're too optimal, they could smash us off the edge or do other annoying bullshit. If you go too fast, you will get fucked on these guys, as you can see. God, I feel like I'm coaching my past self right now, like I'm in the middle of the fucking grand finals of a melee tournament or something. Give me the chair, Hungry Box. It's my time to shine. Anyways, we're coming up on a cool trick right now called Magic Stairs, where all we do is hold square and X to continuously charge jump over these steps. Sometimes with these big metal guys, I like to charge jump into them, which is a faster animation than a grounded bonk. This guy can be knocked off with a single bonk, but it tends to be less optimal because of the boxes. I bear right here to manipulate the last enemy into skiing towards me. From there, we just clean up the last few things, and that's Ice Cavern. Exiting the level, we'll be doing a glitchy charge jump up this hill, periodically full hop charging when the slope is too steep. Now we just talked to our boy Gosnold, which is just an insane thing to name your son. I mean, this guy definitely got bullied in balloonist school, and we're out of there. On to Magic Crafters, and frankly, this was one of the strongest points of the entire run, this homeworld, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm still skipping through the homeworld, cause ain't no one got time for that. Alpine Ridge features more large enemies that are unable to be flame charged. These are like Maggie and the Ferocious Beast type, if that was even more nightmare fuel than it already is. After grabbing these spring chests, I jump up the second stair early to get as far ahead of the cycle as possible. Later in the level, more platforms will be raising and lowering, and so I need to be aware of this cycle as I progress. The gem collection in this section is tight and easy to fuck up. I have to make sure to extend my flame charges as far as possible for some of these blue boxes in order to not miss them. Here's the platform where I was talking about being ahead of cycle. I was so far ahead that I actually had to jump around it and force it to come down early. Luckily, that doesn't faze me, and I'm ready to recover the slightest inconvenience that could potentially throw my run off the rails like that. So yeah, based. This next section's got a ton of juicy gems in it, so you know we gotta go down into the tunnel for them gushers. Being careful not to collide with the yellow guys, even after they're dead, I make sure to charge into the firework chest, so that way we don't have to wait for the sizzling animation to happen. Some of these charge jumps look really hard, but they're actually not that bad, so we climb up the stairs here while making sure to collect all the enemies, flame charge the boxes, and then grab the dragon. Now this next section is fucked up because it's like, bro, where are you gliding? I can't, what are you, oh. Well, I guess that one polygon doesn't have any collision, but it makes the thief kill nice and easy and allows us to rescue the best unit of temperature ever measured in science before exiting Alpine Ridge. Alright, we're skipping through the homeworld here. I killed a thief, whoop-de-doo. Time for high caves. This is another platform cycle level, and these flame charges here at the start are some of the hardest in the entire game. I mean, these wizards have the fattest hitboxes I've ever seen. They are even thicker than the mamas in Clifftown, and that is saying something. Alright, I got an unfavorable cycle on these platforms moving here, so we're gonna see once I exit the dragon if I can actually catch it in time, which I do, of course. I mean, this is world record, guys, like, you know, I don't mean to spoil it or anything, but I kind of played it pretty good, you know? Like, I didn't get too fucked, you know what I mean? Like... Anyways, we got some of the juiciest gems in the whole level right here. Only yellows and purples. I'm feeling like a baller shot caller before doing a fat charge jump to get over to this dragon as well. It always looks like you're about to fail it, but you never do. But you know what I do sometimes fail is jumping on this little tip to manipulate the supercharged speed in order to be enough to reach the top of this ramp here so we can go through all 3 firework chests. Notably, we did not do any crazy supercharges involving the nightmare fucking spiders in this level, who are actually beetles because they have 3 arms and were in one of the most influential bands of all time. But doing a ballsy supercharge through all the spiders while looking awesome is also a viable strat, costing 26 seconds in exchange for about 100 gems. Anyways, this supercharge right here can actually get cancelled for no reason if this green druid decides to lift the platform too early. Luckily, we sent that bitch to the Shadow Realm in exchange for a few more pink gems. It's like violence equates to real money in this world, and it's actually very disappointing to see. Anyways, this is one of my favorite levels, Wizard Peak, starting off with a pretty quick charge to catch this big fat wizard right here before chaining together a couple more really close flame charges. This room has to be cleaned up counterclockwise so that way we have time for the delightfully rotund fellow here to spawn before we immediately delete him. Now we get the longest supercharge in the entire run. Maintaining wizard kills with high value box collection, we are able to continue our supercharge all the way around this island with barely enough space to turn. From here we do a tricky green collection and make it all the way to the island off in the distance with barely just enough speed. On this island, we supercharge against the wall to collect 3 blue gems on the other side before cleaning up the rest and doing a quick kill on the thief. It may seem faster to supercharge through the spring boxes, but you can't collect the gems through the wall that way. After death abusing, we finish collecting these wizards, which sometimes can just deny you their gem for no apparent reason. Then we're on a mad dash to collect another fat wizard floating up into the air, thinking he can get away from us, and forcing the spawns for all the other enemies as a result. Now here we're about to do a triple spring chest collection, which is just so swag. Yeah. Then we jump around the front of this dragon to let him know that we love and care about him. This is one of the few dragons in the game that actually has useful information to the player. He tells you about the stones in front of Sunny Flight and how they'll make noise now when you go and jump on them. Pretty cool little detail. Except that even in most casual playthroughs, you'll be conditioned by this point to think that every dragon just says thank you for releasing me, so you'll probably skip him. Oh well. Now check out this dragon right here, which after doing a cool double spring chest, I touch while entering the portal. This skips it for when I come out and is the only dragon in the game that is like this. Alright, I'm just gonna skip through Crystal Flight because, say it with me now, ain't nobody got time for that shit. But remember that the entire run is linked down below, and hey, while you're down there, remember to subscribe. Okay, here's Blowhard. This level is insane because not only are there so many high value gems and wizards with wonky hitboxes, but if we go fast enough, we can actually hit a super duper cycle on the platforms coming up in the interior area. For now, we're just trying to stretch these flames as hard as possible to avoid zigzagging as much while doing our first hit here on Blowhard. Now let's see how these platforms look. Just barely able to hit the descending cycle on that second platform before running around and touching the front of this dragon. Damn. But our nightmare isn't over because we still have to hit these 2 platforms, which I have watched many casual players and VTubers struggle to get past. I almost fudged it myself there. I had to flame that guy at the very last moment. You see me laughing on camera when I do that shit. Good lord, man. We're damage abusing again on this firework chest, putting us at kind of a precarious sparks level going into Beastmakers, which, as many of you guys know, has some of the most aggressive and annoying enemies in the entire game. We roll into those last gems as they spawn, so that way the movement is buffered so that we don't have to time a charge, though that works just as well. I mean, why charge when you can roll? And now here I do an awkward homeworld cleanup, which I'm pretty sure no one else even bothers with, and that is Magic Crafters. I mean, after these text boxes. Hey, did you know that if you don't have the requirements for Tuco, he'll give you specific levels that he'll teleport you to? That's the only way to teleport to a level specifically in this game. Even more funny is that if you reject his offers, you'll just have invincibility in the Magic Crafters homeworld, so you could just jump into the void and fall infinitely. Pretty awesome. Alright, let me give you guys an emotional update at this point. This is by far the fastest run I've ever had up to this point, with amazing gem counts as well. I'm actually pretty nervous, despite being pretty early on in the run still. Plenty of stuff can still go wrong, but I stay locked in. That damage abuse was intentional, by the way, so that way I can charge both of the firework chests and only take 1 hit of damage. Now I can pretty safely charge behind the back of this hut with— holy shit, where did that dog come from? And now I charge jump through these boxes to avoid them pushing me backwards before hopping down into wild flight. You might think that touching the portal higher up there is faster, but actually you have to wait for the camera to touch the portal before the level starts. That's actually why the dragon skip in Magic Crafters works as well. Now, I'm not going to skip through this flight level because it is the hardest one in the entire game, and every movement, every flame that I do is going to have an impact on the plane cycles in the second half. At this point, we're also flying at a higher altitude, which slows Spyro down a little bit. The lower he is from the height cap, the higher his speed is in a flight level. So we speed up as we descend here, being careful not to get caught on any of the ledges. Also, we keep our camera in a forward-facing position. That way the plane cycles don't happen any earlier or later than normal. Now, on a fast cycle, you should be able to hit these 2 planes while intentionally flopping to turn around, clean up the rest from this side, and then finally grab the last few before hitting the final box of the level, and that is Wild Flight, a very fitting name. We're now en route to Misty Bog, and let me tell you, this is where things start to get kind of fucked up. Okay, well, you know how I mentioned my gem count was good? Well, that's going to have a big effect on this level because now I can skip certain enemies and sections in order to save time in exchange for gems. Our first example of that will be these green gems in the shrub area. Next, we gotta manipulate the frog AI so that they're all directly in our path. Unfortunately, this second one here was out of the way, and because I was trying to play it risky, I was thinking, okay, I'll just skip him. But that just ended up with me shooting myself in the foot and losing time anyways. Big blunder. I just shake my head and keep on trucking. I know I'm still over-gemmed, so I'm gonna continue to play it ballsy as we get down into the lower area coming up. We grind along the wall and then fail a charge jump to collect both boxes at once. Luckily, I'm able to recover it like a G and still skip the enemies underneath to lose minimal time. Here I get a lucky break by having all of the frogs lined up for me. However, I proceed to soil it by having to turn around on this frog and hog right here. But I just say, fuck it, we keep it moving. The mistakes are starting to pile up and I'm definitely salty at this point. But you know what? There's nothing else what to do but to do it. You know what I'm saying? So god fucking damn, let's continue. At least I still have sparks. And although they looked bad, in reality, all of those mistakes probably totaled about 5 or 6 seconds. So we're still totally in this. We hit some tight platforming to ascend these stairs and then do a double spring chest before carefully gliding to the next area. We could play this platforming a little bit more ballsy, but at this point I'm just counting my lucky stars that my soul hasn't completely left my body yet. After ascending the tree, we position ourselves so that the third flame can stretch into the third box, thus saving us a flame. And I know I've been talking a lot about stretching flames on this run, but keep in mind that the flame animation is always the same. The only thing that changes is Spyro's position, so that's the thing that I'm really trying to stretch is my movement. All that's left now is Epstein Island, where we're left to eradicate the highest density of corrupt celebrities in the entire game. It's basically a coin toss whether you take damage here or not, and if I take damage, I'm gonna go sparksless, which means I have to run through every gem manually to collect it. That would be really bad, but luckily, these frogs had mercy on me. They showed me care and justice when I finally needed it in my darkest moment. I think they just felt bad for me that I fucked up the rest of the level, and that is Misty Bog. Also, hilariously, I didn't even lose time on my splits, which basically means that I did that level perfectly and didn't make any mistakes. Hell yeah. Here I go for a half-hearted flame charge before making my way over to Treetops. At this point, I'm hoping to God that I don't keep fucking up. I mean, you know what they say, is when it rains, it pours, and that's very true about making mistakes in this speedrun. We start off Treetops with a cute animation of Mike Wazowski making a break for it. As it turned out, I was the real Monsters, Inc. But more importantly, we're trying to get ahead of him on this scripted chase so that by the time we touch the dragon, we can teleport him to the island that he finally lands at. Unfortunately, my movement was a little sketchy here, so I had to ride this thief's ass like a Tesla driver riding Elon's nuts. But luckily, we still made it to the dragon in time to get the teleport, and now we just had to get over to the island. Normally, you're supposed to supercharge around the whole level, but with some precise movement, you can just jump late off of this ramp in order to make it to the island. From here, we consult with Jedediah, or Jedesius as I like to call him, before collecting one of only a handful of pink spring chests in the whole game, and of course, that blasted thief. Now we take a moment to appreciate the gorgeous skybox in this level before promptly skipping forward to the next dragon. Isn't technology wonderful? Alright, now we're going to jump onto the supercharge ramp to manipulate enough speed so that way I don't have to jump off of it like I'm supposed to. Then, after some movie magic, we get to the final supercharge ramp of the level where I'm going to do that same strategy, but this time use a wall bump in order to get up to the upper area that you're again supposed to supercharge around the entire level to reach. From there, all we have left is just a few gems, and that is Treetops. Okay, so I know what you're thinking. He'll never be ballin' and hit the monkey into the corner so that he gets squeezed out of bounds. Well, get wrecked, liberals. And this game makes no fucking sense. Because normally in those situations, you just get squeezed up into the air with a proxy, but look man, I'm not gonna question it. All I know is that I am on the Lord's run right now, and I have just decided that I am that guy, and I am in fact him. So with that in mind, I skip a few more gems here, hyper aware of my gem count, that even though I lost a few in the last couple levels, I'm still so far ahead that I'm basically as bloated as the grape guy from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So here's the Metalhead fight, and if we count each one of his pylons as 1 health, he has almost 6 times as much health as Nasty Norc. Just thought I'd share that. We ascend these stairs here to collect a bunch of juicy gems before moving on to the second phase of the fight. Of course, first we have to collect the key chest, which is actually worth going out of the way for the key and doing that out of bounds in the beginning, because there is just that many fucking gems here. After killing Metalhead, he falls over in what has to be the laziest animation of all gaming. Like, the guy who developed that definitely clocked out early that day. We jump into an oddly disjoint whirlwind hitbox before running through the rest of the gems from enemies that would have been thrown out by Metalhead, but we were too quick for him to dispose of. With that, we're done with Metalhead and are ready to move on to Dreamweavers, but not before checking the gem count on the load screen to make sure we haven't burned too many gems. Nice. Now our work here isn't exactly done because in this homeworld all of the gems are pushed towards the end in this area, so we have to make a really tight cycle in order to catch an extra free blue gem when we come back onto the mainland. From here we travel around to the key chest before I have my worst individual time loss of the entire run. Honestly, that whole sequence was pretty sloppy, losing me 3 to 4 seconds, but in my defense, that wall is bullshit. Well, we're on to the last main homeworld before Nasty, and this is still the best run I've ever had in my entire life, regardless of some of the sloppiness in Beastmakers. Unfortunately, we don't get to see some more of the iconic levels in Dreamweavers, because we've been forced to collect so much shit up to this point in the game that there's basically only a couple levels until the final boss. Also, we're done collecting dragons at this point, so all we need is 6,000 gems, and all you need is a girlfriend. Hey, got him. Now here we do a damage boost to get over these two guys by preserving our momentum from the charge before jumping. And in this next section, you can actually bounce off of the second guy to avoid flaming him and waiting for the platform. I, of course, was taking no chances on this run. I ain't trying to lose it to some dumb shit like that. This will be the last level I skip through because Icy Flight is essentially a heart attack waiting room before the end game. Alright, now here we go into the real final level, Jaquis. We've managed our gems eloquently up to this point that we can actually skip a single green gem on this route. And in case you're wondering, yes, the numbers next to my splits have to do with remembering gem counts. At the start, you can actually save a second by jumping up this platform early, but you know I'm trying to play it safe right now. I mean, literally my heart is beating out of my ass right now. I am nervous, shaking, sweating, all of the above, so I'm just trying to play it solid while I'm going through this level. I nearly miss one of those chests, giving me a mini heart attack before I attempt one of the hardest strats in the entire level. We only raise this platform once instead of twice, so it makes these jumps way easier to bonk. Then, I should have skipped this green gem like I mentioned earlier, but I was just so nervous at this point I was just collecting everything. Just full automatic muscle memory, no thoughts, only Spyro. It allowed me to skip a red on this staircase, which actually cost me world record on a run the previous day because I got flopped into the dragon going for that. The jock fight itself is pretty easy peasy baby mode if I dare say so myself, except it's extra scary because it's at the end of the run and any wrong move will land you into the lava, basically ending you. We collect the last of his purples, which by the way are worth it even though his fight takes so long without gems, and we are out of there, perfectly on gem count, on our way to Nasty Norc. But there's one thing standing between me and this big green garbanzo, and it is a goddamn little ruffian, a freaking mollusk, a rat, a fucking devil in disguise. But before we get to that, we take a moment to celebrate the fastest run ever out of Dreamweavers. And let me take a moment to celebrate you for making it all the way to the end of this video. I love you. Hearts in the comments. Now, all that's standing in between us and the final boss are 2 levels, which we are actually going to skip by standing in front of this rat, positioning ever so precisely, charging, pressing right, and then bouncing into the air, navigating rough terrain over the Twilight Harbor head, and then flying through the Nasty Norc head, which happens to have no collision. We are now confronting the final boss on world record pace. And if it sounds like I'm getting a little emotional here, it's because I have had run after run after run die on that rat sequence because the consistency at best for me is like 30, 50% maybe on a good day. Like that rat is literally your coin toss, your golden ticket into an actual run finishing, and that can be mentally arduous like nothing you'd ever imagine in speedrunning. So fittingly, my chat is losing their fucking mind and my heart is about to explode out of my chest as I simply try not to choke this Nasty Norc chase. As I get ahead of him, I try to stay close to maintain his speed before going for an early hit as he approaches his pedestal. Now all that's left is the trek across the lava room. Simple platforming, but yes, I have lost world records before bonking on one of these platforms. Of course, it's intense right up to the end, and I managed to climb up the last few stairs without getting stuck and flame nasty to finish the run. Yeah. Woo. Yeah, dude. Let's go. Oh my god. Oh lord, I'm about to have a heart attack. Oh god. I want to thank you for enjoying this run and this commentary. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know down in the comments below. I'm basically discount tomato anus at this point, so the sky's the limit. Anyways, I hope you guys have an excellent day, and remember, I love you and keep on spyroing. I will catch you in the next one.